name is Bonnie Strassell, and this is my co-author, Christina Murphy, and we are here today to talk about our book, 1812, Kentuck is Coming. We were participants in a program that the library had scheduled for April that had to be canceled due to the COVID-19 crisis. And so we decided to record a short video and introduce ourselves and our book to all of you. Let me give it a little bit of background of Christina and I. First of all, we are both historians and genealogists. We are on the board at the Owen County Historical Society. I work here at the library in the History Genealogy Department, and I'm also a reenactor, as you can guess by our attire today. Christina, do you want to add anything else about yourself?
Well, I want to say that, first of all, it was an honor for me to participate with Bonnie in writing this book, because I am not a writer by any means, more of a researcher and an editor. So I met Bonnie, like she said, through the Historical Society, and I offered, to help her when she decided to write the book, and she graciously allowed me to help her with the book. So.
Thank you very much, Christina. Actually, Christina is a great researcher, and that's one of the reasons I needed her help. 1812 was a crucial war for America. It was called the Second American Revolution, and it was called that because basically we were fighting the same people we fought during the Revolutionary War, the British and the Indians, and we were trying to reaffirm our independence for which we had fought so hard in the Revolution. Some of you may not be interested in history, but I would like for you to take a look at our book. It's more than just a chronology of dates and battles. It's a collection of quotes and personal stories of the people who lived through that war and whose lives were forever changed by the impact it had on America. Like Christina said, it was a collaborative effort. She did a lot of the research. In the beginning of the book are short biographies of many of the men in the local area who fought in the war. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina to let her tell you what she did to research that and how it became part of our book.
Okay. I went to the library, the History Center actually, in Frankfurt to research, and they had much information there, biographies that people had donated to the History Center. And I was able to find the stories of 87 men who fought from this area. At the time, Owen County was still part of Franklin County. But anyway, it was part of they were from this area and who fought in the war, and their families later settled in Owen County. So, let's see, I was able to find their pensions, and some of the well-known Owen Countyans that appeared in the book were George Forsey, who fought both in the Revolutionary War and in the War of 1812. And the Forsey family still live on the lands that were granted to George for his service in the American Revolution. And then there were fathers and sons and brothers who joined and fought together. Hardin is another well-recognized name in the county. 5 Hardins fought in the War of 1812, and 3 brothers, Benjamin, James, and John Hardin, were all killed at the Battle of Fort Meigs. 2 brothers from the Rowlett family who founded Rowlett's Landing, later known as Ball's Landing, fought in the war, as did Jacob Hessler, the founder of Hesslerville. Their stories and others provide important information to families in their search for ancestors.
And that was great. And then we also had a lot of personal stories. I love some of the quotes. Some of the quotes are little-known quotes from the war, and some of them are very entertaining, such as the one where a British general was captured by one of the Kentuckians, and he refused to be captured by someone who he said was a chimney sweep. Other personal stories included those of Tecumseh. Of course, many of you know about him. He was a great orator, and he was so charismatic. He was a Shawnee Indian chief. He unified Indian nations from Minnesota to Florida, and that was something that had never been done before or since. Tecumseh was probably one of the most admirable enemies of Americans. He would not allow Americans to be tortured or run the gauntlet, but he was a very fierce fighter. Another chapter we had concentrated on women of the war. Of course, as a lot of you know, women were overlooked a lot of times in historic documents, and we made sure that they were included in our book. One story was of Dolly Madison, who, when the British was burning Washington, she captured a lot of the silver and a lot of the artifacts from the White House. But most importantly, she had the portrait of George Washington taken down, stored in her carriage, and ahead of the British Army, she escaped. And of course, that portrait is still with us today. One of the stories that I really was fascinated with was a fellow from Franklin County, Kentucky. His name was John Birchfield, and he was known as Longlegs because he was swifter than any other person in the county. He won any kind of race on foot, and he joined the Kentucky militia. In one of the battles, the Kentuckians had been trapped by the British and Indians. A massacre ensued, and John was asked if he even had a chance to use his gun, to which he replied, "I had no use for my gun, only my long legs, which served me well in escaping from my enemies." Probably one of my favorite stories, and one of the favorite stories of many, was about the little pig, the Kentucky pig, who joined the fight. And this little piggy went to war. The Harrodsburg militia had stopped along the way to join the battle up north, and they were watching a pig fight. They cheered the little pig that won the pig fight, and I'm not sure if it was the fact that they cheered her or the fact that, like a true Kentuckian, she was ready to fight again. And so she followed the Kentucky militia. At Newport, when the ferry was transporting troops across the Ohio River, the little pig jumped in and she paddled her way across the Ohio. And then on her short, stubby legs, but with true Kentucky grit, that little pig followed the Kentucky militia 400 miles to Canada. When they reached Canada, they had to cross Lake Erie. Of course, she couldn't swim that frigid lake, so she waited on shore until the victorious Americans returned from the Battle of the Thames. She was called the governor's pig, so called because she was a favorite. She was a mascot, and Kentucky Governor Isaac Shelby had led the troops to that battle. On the way home, severe weather came in, and the men were starving. Their clothes were torn, tattered, cold rain. But what they did is any little bit of food they found, they gave to their little Kentucky mascot. Which she became very sick, and when they reached Maysville, Kentucky, they left their little mascot with the farmer there in hopes that she would recover. The end of the story for the Kentucky pig is in our book, so you need to read it to find out what happened to the little Kentucky pig. A lot of the quotes were centered on Kentuckians who they had such fervent patriotism, and a lot of people admired that. But I think one of my favorite was that showed the tenacity of the Kentuckians was given by General William Henry Harrison. He was the commander of the American forces, and he wrote, after one intense battle, Kentuckians just never wanted to surrender. And after one intense battle where they would not surrender, and many died, The general had to write a report about the battle, and he wrote, "It rarely occurs that a general has to complain of excessive ardor of his men, yet such appears to always be the case whenever the Kentucky militia are engaged." Kentucky sent more men into the War of 1812 than any other state in the Union, and 64% of the casualties were Kentuckians. I think our book gives a voice to those Kentuckians who left indelible footprints upon the history of our nation. Christina, did you have anything else to add? Now, the book is available at the Owen County Library when we reopen, or if you would like to purchase a copy, you can email me. It's $20 plus $5 shipping. You can email me at Strassell, that's BStrassell, at owenlibrary.org. Thank you for visiting, and we wish you a good day.